We've covered 5 of the top tight ends so far in the 2019 NFL Draft Class. And today we're looking at the best of the rest as our profile series right here on DynastyLeagueFootball.com continues.
The NFL Draft Profile Series, NFL Prospects. Break it down, let's get it. People's pen and the gridiron scholar. Time to do it major. Let's see who running the field. Let's analyze the data. Yeah, let's go.
It's been boasted to be the year of the tight end, and so far we've given you a background and info and analysis on the top 5 guys that we have ranked. Now we're going to look at the best of the rest and go over some of these other players. In the last 10 years, John, an average of 14.8 tight ends have been drafted. Over the last 5 years, it's dropped to an average of 13.8. So we're going to be in that ballpark of 15 tight ends that hear their name called at the 2019 NFL Draft. And as I mentioned, this is the year of the tight end. The class is ripe and deep. The most that have ever been drafted in one year was 19. That was in 2015. I think we might be in line to challenge that number. So of the guys, of the extra, of the best of the rest, the guys we haven't gotten yet, 6 to that 20 number, is there one player that jumps out the most to you?
My number 6 tight end is Dawson Knox of Mississippi. We've been talking about Mississippi a lot. I mean, the amount of offensive talent that school had this year when you look at 3 possible wide receivers being drafted. But Dawson Knox was obviously one of those key components, but more in the running game and in the red zone because he did not have a ton of production. He only had 39 receptions, and but he did average 15.5 yards per catch. I like Dawson Knox, but it's hard for me to rank a player who only had 39 career receptions at the college level for me to put him amongst the elite, especially in a league which is using tight ends as elite pass catchers down the field. Does he have the athletic ability? Yes. I do believe that Dawson Knox can be a productive pass catcher at the NFL level, but we have not seen it. So we are taking some projections when we look at him. I understand that the skills are there. I understand that the combine results are unbelievable, but I have him in number 6. I think he's a 3rd-round draft pick. I have a 3rd-round grade on him. I think an NFL team is going to fall in love with the value of Dawson Knox, and he's going to go off the board quicker than most people think. What do you think, Andy, of Dawson Knox?
For me, he's the complete wild card of this class. I mean, everything athletically you'd want at the position, but as you mentioned, the production doesn't match. In addition to the lack of targets and receptions and yardage, he had 0 touchdowns. So you can't overlook that. This is a position that you kind of want to rely on, especially in the red zone. For me, my guy, I think is going to have to be Dax Raymond, the Utah State product, the consolation prize to not going early for T.J. Hawkinson. I mean, his numbers aren't gaudy, but he is a far better receiver than those numbers would indicate. He improved on his 40 at his pro day to a 4.58, which is really dynamic for the tight end position. He also holds well in blocking, which is going to get him on the field. I mean, this guy can come in and surprise from day one. I think some of the other names that people are looking at, Georgia's Isaac Nauta, who to me is looking more and more like just a blocker at the next level than an actual receiving threat. Drew Sample is a name you need to know. He graded out as Pro Football Focus's top blocker, and he has way better hands than what his opportunities at Washington would indicate. I would look for him to be a fantasy contributor by year 3. But another big-time sleeper for me is Josh Oliver. Needs to improve in blocking, but a weapon and a difference maker as a big receiver. One of the big sleepers in this class and proof to the depth of this position. John, of the guys I mentioned, I know you're big on Oliver, but how do you feel about the others as well?
You know, Andy, you identified 2 small school tight end sleepers that I was talking about on a podcast. We did small school prospects with Matt Hicks. I did it about 2 months ago. And both Dax Raymond and Josh Oliver we looked at in detail. And look, when I saw Dax Raymond's pro day, I think you just mentioned 4.58. That is so much better. He ran a 4.73 at the combine. So he's clearly better than what he did. Whatever, he had a bad day, something didn't work out, little home cooking. So let's take an average, and it still shows very good straight line speed. Now, he's coming into the pros as a little bit older of a prospect. He went on for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He served on a mission abroad. So he's going to enter the NFL older than most of the prospects at the tight end position. But he's a dynamic and athletic competitor, long legs. He's versatile. If you watch him at Utah State, he can play inline, H-back, and they split him out wide. I really like this young man. He really came on this year. And there are 2 stats that kind of impressed me. 28 of his 41 catches this year produced a first down for the Utes. and during his career, he had 72 catches for 873 yards and 3 touchdowns. I really like this prospect. I think I have a 4th-round grade. I think that's about where he'll go off the board. I do think he's more of a pass catcher than he is a run blocker, but he can help you a little bit in the run game. And then you mentioned it, Josh Oliver at San Jose State. Hey, he's a late bloomer, but I love the size. I love the athleticism. He was 2018 All-Mountain West first team. He ran vertical and seam routes in the Spartans offense. You watch him. He runs deep down the field, my friends. He can really challenge the safety at the NFL level. Now, I think he's going to need time to grow because he was a late bloomer for the Spartans, so I don't think he's going to jump on the NFL field anytime soon and be able to get the complexity of the offense. Now, he's a positional blocker. He has the body strength to move opponents, but he's not going to knock anyone off backwards. So I don't expect him to get on the field right away because you have to block at the NFL level, and he needs time to develop his skills. He blossomed this year with 56 catches for 709 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I like both of these two young tight ends. I have 4th-round grades on each, and I expect them to go off the board around the 4th round. They could sneak into the 3rd. Now, you mentioned Isaac Nauta. I agree. He's a blocker. You know, we've seen these Georgia kids. They come in ready to play at the NFL. Obviously, Georgia runs the football extremely well year after year. The tight ends are well coached. I don't think Nauta is a pass-catching threat. None of these Bulldogs ever really make it at the NFL level. You mentioned Drew Sample of Washington. Hey, look, I think he looks like an Oakland Raider all over, in my opinion, because I believe John Gruden wants to run the football. He wants a nasty blocker. Drew Sample coming out of the Pac-12. You mentioned it, the highest graded blocker on Pro Football Focus. He can come in, he can seal the edge. I don't think he's as good as TJ Hawkinson, but I think he's in the same class without a question. I just think Hawkinson's nastier, but hey, Pro Football Focus had a higher grade, so I have to take that into consideration, but I think he's not a great fantasy asset. I also like Alize Mack out of Notre Dame, completely underused by the Fighting Irish. Great athlete, great size, 6'4", 249 pounds. I think he can make a difference at the NFL level. I think he's a 5th or 6th round grade. Tommy Sweeney of Boston College, 6'4", 251 pounds. If you're looking at another run blocker, he's going to be able to come in and help you out there. Andy, is there anyone else you like?
Yeah, so we're talking about big-time programs. We're talking about big-time blockers. And Foster Moreau has been one of my sleepers since he opened my eyes at the Senior Bowl with a surprising array of receiving ability. And in fact, I mean, he went up and beautifully high-pointed a contested catch in one of the practices where a scout was overheard jumping out of his seat and boasting, "Holy crap, I didn't know he could do that." Now, I think that is the general feeling I left with of Moreau, and he shows that kind of potential with the size and athleticism. Where he's at right now, though, is purely as a blocker, and I think it's better in pass protection than in run blocking. When he's seeking out targets, he looks a little clunky and almost too tall, so I'd like to see him get a little lower in his pads and level his shoulders better. But he is aggressive and strong, and he's a very willing attacker. Why does this all matter? His athleticism at the combine really surprised and stood out. Now, also, LSU isn't exactly a prolific passing attack, with even less attention being paid to the tight end position. Moreau will get an opportunity to see the field because of what he can bring as a blocker, and if he has that opportunity, he has a chance to surprise as a receiving option as well. I don't think his upside is that of a dynamic playmaker, but a chain-moving red zone threat is definitely in his wheelhouse, so I'd keep an eye on where Moreau lands because he is more capable than his current numbers would show. You mentioned Alize Mack of Notre Dame, who is a humongous prospect coming out of high school, but he hasn't lived up to the expectations. So for me, I'm a little hesitant to go there. Donald Parham, another guy I got to see in limited exposure at the Senior Bowl because he suffered an injury there, but he's an absolute condor at 6'8", with an insane wingspan who looks comfortable as a pass catcher. Knock on him now, he was a combine snub, which really makes me downshift because, again, I go back to this. I really think the combine, the way they put the combine together, they really do a good job at getting the guys that they want there to see and get an extended look at. So if you get a snub from the combine, it's really kind of speaking to what NFL evaluators are how they're viewing you entering the draft. But maybe the biggest guy you got to watch at the tight end position outside of the Big Five is Kahale Warring, a late bloomer, but a tremendous natural athlete. For me, he's somewhere of a cross between Mike Gesicki and Rico Gathers as a project who still needs to get more comfortable with the game, but can have a tremendous ceiling. So for me, those are really, that's where the tight end position kind of ends for me. There are some other names, of course. John, do you have any that you'd like to add?
I have one more, Caden Smith of Stanford. We used to think of Stanford as tight end U with Zach Ertz and Kobe Fleener, and they always were producing tight end prospects. Now that's kind of moved over to Iowa in the last 2 or 3 years. But Caden Smith, I really like this young man. He's number 7 on my board at the tight end position, 70 career receptions, average 15 yards per catch. I like his combine scores. They're very good. And look, we know that these kids from Stanford come into the NFL. They're technically sound. They understand the position. He's 6'5", 255 pounds. I think Caden Smith is a 3rd to 4th round grade. That's where I have him right now. But I also think an NFL team is going to really like this young man. And he has someone who I think in the right position 3 years down the road might be making a fantasy impact if he has the opportunity to succeed.
Well, John, I think some would argue that the University of Miami, a.k.a. the U, was and always will be tight end U. Well, we can give it to Iowa for right now. I'm sure there's some guys we missed that you'd like to add to our list, so please do that in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and go check out all the other players we've covered, over 45 individual, and the best of the rest at each position as well. So we're well over 50 prospects we've discussed. We're also available in audio formats. Any platform that you're on, we're there, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, search for my name, and we should pop up. Go check out John's written work on footballdiehards.com, where you can get an extended look at all the players that we've talked about here, as well as some others. Check out dynastyelitefootball.com for some other great podcasts and written work as well. And you can check out my newly launched expandtheboxscore.com, which gives you a detailed look at every touch for every player in Division I from the 2018 to the 2016 season, and we're going back to add more historical years and content as well. Thanks for checking us out today. We hope you enjoyed our series. Don't forget to check our 50th and final video, which will be our top 50 big board. John and I did top 50, and we're combining the two together to give you our consensus. So make sure to look out for that as well. Thanks for watching us today. Hope you enjoyed our takes on tight ends.